already at the start time, so we better get going. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining the Final Steps bite-sized briefing. We really appreciate seeing you here. My name is Simon, and I'm a client advisor and a director at the Final Step. And on this briefing, you're also going to be hearing from some of my colleagues or meeting them a little bit more virtually. So Emre, Luke, and Sean have all recorded the video tips, and those guys are what we call first responders. So first responders are the guys who, when you phone the help desk, they're the first people to pick up the phone. So they're pretty well placed these days to answer questions on Teams because the use of it has become so prevalent. And what they do is they often have requests for how do they customize it. People say it's not quite working for me, or I need to make a few changes, or can we make it work a bit better or a bit differently? And so they've contributed quite a lot to this collection of tips from their sort of first-hand experience of that. Also with me is my colleague Louisa, who you may already have seen in the chat, and we would encourage you to use the chat as we go through the webinar. Feel free to leave us comments and feedbacks. The tips are by no means finalized. We're going to produce a web resource. We've got a web development company working on that. So we're going to publish a number of tips, and we're going to have them around a variety of subjects and categories. So we thought, what better way to stress test them than to put them in front of people who would find them useful. So we really would appreciate your feedback. Louisa is also a very good person to comment on the nature of this briefing. So this briefing is actually especially intended for personal assistants, team leads, office managers, secretarial staff, admin. It's all those people who have to coordinate and corral other people and get them ready to do other work and put them together with others so that the work can go efficiently and smoothly. And the reason I say Louisa is well qualified is because she started with us, I think it was 14 years ago. She may amend that in the chat if I've got that wrong. But she started a long time ago with the Final Step, and she started as a junior admin, and then she took over the whole of the admin. At various points, she has been a personal assistant to Raja, the MD. She has been the office manager. She has been a team lead, and she is now a general manager. So Louisa knows a thing or two about herding cats, and she's also very skilled at getting the best out of systems. And I think sometimes the engineers are surprised about how much she knows about certain systems and making them work efficiently. So I should just tell you a little bit about bite-sized briefings and the nature of them and what they are. Bite-sized briefings we do monthly, and they're short, they're under an hour, and they are a concise and hopefully clear presentation of information about various aspects of technology. And they're intended to do two things. So the first thing is help you make well-informed strategic decisions about IT. So what developments in IT should I be looking at and thinking about in order for us as a company to fulfill our potential? The second thing is, if you're already invested in and using a particular technology, normally a piece of software, there are hands-on topics so that you can understand actually how do we use these on the ground and how do we get the most from them, again, to try and help you fulfill your potential. So that's the bite-sized briefings. We hope to see you on ones in the future as well. So what's the topic of this one? Well, as I mentioned, it's about PAs. I'll use that term, if you don't mind, to encompass all the other roles that I mentioned before, the secretarial, team leads, office managers. Essentially, it's people who hold back the forces of chaos, who impose order, who organize and coordinate and collaborate other people and schedule them and make sure that everything goes smoothly. And that's normally so that others can actually step into the spotlight and perform effortlessly and shine in front of clients and or other stakeholders. However, that job of late of coordinating and corralling people has become a little bit harder because we've all been working from home. And it looks like it's going to continue to have its challenges because it looks like working from home will become something of the norm. We're seeing some people return to work, but it's on an ad hoc basis. And we've also seen some companies that have just said, we won't be returning in 2020 to the office. And some people have even been giving up their offices and becoming more virtual organizations. So that presents its challenges. The other thing is that Teams is becoming pretty much the internal platform for collaboration and coordination by standard. Microsoft have a pretty good track record with their major software releases, and I suspect it's no exception that this will become a major part of pretty much everybody's workload. And so we thought it was timely that actually we look at tips related to how do you coordinate other people when you are working in teams. So I think we should perhaps get to our first tip. Before I run that, let me tell you a little bit about the tips. I'm pretty confident that they will work for everybody in the environment that you're working in. However, there are some caveats, this being IT. So the first one is it's possible that some features have been stopped by your IT administrators. So these are the people who set up Teams and organize how it works and what permissions it has. They can stop certain things at the root level, so you just never get to see them. The other thing is Teams is being developed pretty quickly. So it's in a little bit of a race with some of its competitors like Zoom to bring out products that match the efficiency and the effectiveness of their competitors. And it's also to some extent in competition with itself because previous versions of products are very similar to Teams. So if anybody knew Link Server or anybody used Skype for Business, and they are trying to integrate into Teams some of the features which we weren't quite able to bring across. So things are changing quite a lot and quite rapidly. So keeping up to date with a particular edition of Teams is important. Also, Teams runs in a lot of different environments. So you can run it on smartphones, both iOS and Android. You can run it purely in web applications, so just in a web browser. You can run it on tablets. And of course, you can run it on desktops, both Mac and PC. So between those different platforms, they try to keep it as similar as possible. But of course, there will be variations and differences, and you might have to get used to working with some of these tips in a slightly different way. The final thing before we play the first tip is to remember that I will send out tomorrow the recording of this webinar. So sometimes if you're sitting on a webinar and you think that's useful and the video started and then you start to take notes and what are the exact steps, it's difficult to get those steps. Also, sometimes when you have a recorded video and then you play it over another webinar over the internet, the sound and the vision can be a little bit compromised depending on what your own settings are. And so you may not see it quite as clearly. However, when you get the recording, that will be out on the web and then you can go back over that. So I think the most important thing is just to get hold of the ideas and how is it that you can use these to your advantage. Okay, so Teams encourages an always-on sort of attitude, and that can be distracting. So how is it that you can actually tell people, this is my status and I'm available or I'm not available? Let's have a look at how you can set your status and availability in Teams.
Welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today I'm going to show you statuses in Teams. Go ahead and click on your profile picture at the top right and then hover over your current status to see all other options. Now you may ask yourself, why set these manually if the system could do it automatically for me? Well, using statuses can be a quick way to indicate to your team if you're available or not without having to actually type it out. For example, I use the Do Not Disturb status when recording these videos. This indicates to my team that I'm currently busy and I'm not to be contacted, but even if they do try to contact me via Teams message or call, there's usually notifications that I would get are getting blocked by this status. Let's go ahead and have a look at the other statuses here. Available means that I'm currently signed into Teams, and there's nothing in my calendar that contradicts this. Busy means that I'm currently focusing on something, but I will still see notifications. Be right back is a way to indicate that I'm currently away from my desk, but I'll be back soon, and appears a way is very similar to that, only sets the expectation that I may be gone for some time. I hope this helps you with your internal communication in Teams, and thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by The Final Step.
That was Sean. Some of you may recognize that voice from working with him previously. So you may be thinking, well, that all seems pretty simple. But curiously, sometimes it's the obvious things that actually go unnoticed and unused and rather unloved. And the reason we say that is what we've seen a lot recently with the adoption of working from home and the adoption of Teams is that what happens is that people tend to stick to whatever method they've been using previously in order to alert people to changes in status. So what they actually do is they might go to text, they might go to email, and sometimes they might go to a channel in Teams. But what they do is when their availability changes, they push out a message to quite large groups or even to the entire organization to tell them what is going on. So for example, you might get, the dog's gone crazy at the postman, I'll be 2 minutes. Oh, finally the shopping has arrived, give me 20 minutes to put it away. Or my son or daughter is having trouble with their distance learning school program. I really don't know how long I'm going to be, but I'll get back as soon as I can. Now, what happens when you push out messages is that each individual puts the burden of tracking their availability onto other people. And you may then have 20 or 50 or 100 people suddenly switching their attention away and looking at that message and going, is that relevant to me? Do I need to pay attention to that? Do I need to get hold of that person? And then at a later stage, if you do need to get hold of them, you go, oh, hang on a second, did they send me a message earlier? Let me go back through the thread and filter it out and see where they are and what they're doing. And so the burden of that work of availability tends to fall on everybody, and it distracts everybody. The problem with being distracted is obviously it takes you a little while to then refocus on whatever is most important. The other thing that it does is if you're new to Teams and you're working with Teams, what happens is that slowly over a period of time, if that kind of behavior goes on, you build up a kind of sense of irritation and you start to lose trust in the software itself. And you don't really want to invest a lot of time in it because it just becomes, this is just another channel that I have to keep an eye on, and it's overly burdensome. That approach is almost directly opposite to what you really want to happen with availability. What you really want is you want to have one source of truth that is accurate and reliable and is always up to date. And so what you want is you want to be able to publish your availability in Teams. And then if and when, and only if and when you need to see if somebody is available, you go to that availability and you say, I understand. Now it's not taking me long to realize if I need this person to collaborate with somebody else or I need to speak to them, I can begin to understand and make decisions quickly and easily, and I'm not wasting my time because I know when and how to get hold of them. So one of the things that Sean mentioned in that tip is the do not disturb. So we'll come back to that, but just remember that that blocks all notifications. And what we're talking about here on a notification is you get a little pop-up a window at the bottom right on a PC desktop, which says this message has come in, and your eyes flick down to it and you decide whether you're going to engage with that or not, or whether you're going to let it go. So let's go on to the second tip. And you'll notice that one of the statuses that Sean was telling you about was BRB, as it's often abbreviated to, or be right back. Now, that can mean considerably different things to different people. So if we take our own circumstances, if you're one of our first responders, that means that your job is to answer the phone and to answer it pretty smartly. And so be right back for them might be no more than 30 seconds, please, if you're going to be right back. Whereas somebody in our project engineering team, if they're not on an escalation duty at that time, they tend to work in much bigger batches of time. And it's a bit more managerial, a bit more kind of exec level. And that you begin to think, well, be right back, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes for them. And it's a very different scale. So the setting of the availability status in Teams can feel like a little bit of a blunt tool. So how do you sharpen up that tool and make it a bit more helpful? Well, what you can do is you can add further detail to that availability so that people can see and make good decisions. And here we go, let's play that tip now.
Welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today we will show you how to set a status message in Teams. Sometimes an image or color just isn't enough, so you can help the team members out by setting a status message. To do this, you need to come up to your icon in Teams, press it, and then hit on set status message. You can type the message within this box. For instance, I'm going to say, be right back at 3:30. And then we can tick this box, and this will show the status to your colleagues when they try and mention you in posts. So we hit done, and just for an example, my colleague Simon has one set, so I'm going to show you this. So right at my colleague Simon, you can see his status message here. And that's how you set a status message within Teams. Thanks for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by the Final Step.
So that's quite handy to be presented with the status as you start to contact somebody and start to type a message to them. You get 280 characters, I think it is, in that message box. So it's quite a rich amount of information that you can put in there. And one of the things that the tip doesn't mention, which is also very handy, is you can set expiry times to that message, because it's as bad to end up with the wrong status left setting overdue and setting the wrong expectations as it is to set no status at all. It's still inaccurate status information. And for some reason, I think it's human nature, or at least I find it easier to remember to set my status as I'm leaving than I find it easy to reset my status when I'm coming back. So what you can do to alleviate that somewhat is you can say, okay, I want this message to expire in an hour if you're on your lunch break, and it will automatically change, and the status message will change when that happens. And you can say in the message, I expect to be back about 1 p.m, just so that people are getting richer information and are making better quality decisions. So I know we've only had a couple of tips, and a couple of stories about why they're relevant and why they're helpful, but please do feel free. I've seen that some comments have been coming in, so please do feel free to put in the chat your opinion of the tips so far, any feedback that you give us, any changes that you recommend that we make to them, just to make them more easily understood. When we do publish them, what we're going to do is try and put them into categories. So all the tips about status would be together, and we'll talk a little bit later about other potential categories of tips that we might have. So I'll just give you just a few seconds just to type into the chat any feedback that you have for us. Excellent. Thanks a lot for the comments there. One of the settings that was mentioned was do not disturb. And in effect, what happens is that no notifications come through to you at all when you are on that setting. Now, not many of us have the luxury of not having to be answerable to at least one person. And in fact, you could argue that a PA's job is to be sort of constantly available to particular people in order to help them. And so whilst it's nice and important to be able to have that quiet time and to be able to quell the noise and to do deep work and to not get distracted, there are certain priority exceptions where actually you have to be available to certain people pretty much all the time. So if you want to use D&D, but you also need to hear from the right people, how is it that you can do that? Here's how you set those exceptions.
Hello and welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. You may be aware that in Teams you can set your status to do not disturb, which means you won't receive any calls or messages. If you would like specific people to still be able to contact you while being on do not disturb, just follow this. First, open up Teams, and click on your profile on the top right. Then click on Settings, then click on Privacy, then click on Manage Priority Access. Through here, you can specify certain people, and like so. You can add them into that list. To remove them, just simply click on the X beside it. Thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by the final step.
Okay, the other thing that often happens is if you know that somebody is busy, you're going to have to keep checking back to see when is it that they are next going to be free. And that can create some problems. So it's very nice if the system can actually help you there and say, okay, I can let you know when this person is free so that you're not wasting your time checking back and forth. You just get a notification that pops up. Here's how you get a notification of somebody being free.
Welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today I'm going to show you how to track the availability of your colleagues in Teams. So here's a little scenario for you. You have a colleague in your Teams that you really need to talk to right now, but he's currently on a call or away, but you're not sure when he's going to be available next. You also don't want to have to check his calendar or Teams every 5 seconds or so. But luckily for you, there is a feature to help with this. All you need to do is go over to the Chats tab and then hover over the person you want to turn this feature on for. You can right-click them or click the three-dot icon and then click on Notify when available. When this person is going to the available status next, I will be notified about it just like any other regular Teams notification. There are some advanced controls for this feature, so let's have a look at that. Click on your profile picture at the top right, and then click on Settings. Click on Notifications, scroll down, and click on Manage Notifications. In here, you can see all the people that I'm currently tracking the availability for, and I can also remove the feature for them or add it back on. Thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by The Final Step.
Yes, apologies for some of the noise disruptions. Where our office is located, there's actually a fire station and an ambulance station. There's University College Hospital is pretty close, so it can get noisy in the background. Also, apologies if you're not hearing the tips quite as well as you would like. Louisa is putting in the chat the details of those, and when I share the recording tomorrow, you will get those as well. I think one of the things that we're going to definitely do is to add captions to the tips, so that actually, if you're in an environment where you can't listen to them, you've got the captions and you can see that at the bottom. And when we finalize actually what's the best version of the tips, we'll definitely be doing that. So PAs also have some terrific skills. Generally, they're very savvy at technology. They're also very good at shorthand, and they're extremely fast touch typists. And one of the things that we've noticed is that PAs in particular tend to be hungry for keyboard shortcuts. So if you're setting your availability a lot, and you need to make it second nature, there is a way that you can set availability via the command bar within Teams, and you can actually type it. And lots of people do like to do this. So let me just play now how it is that you set your status via the command bar.
Hello, welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today we'll show you how to type your status changes via the command bar within Teams. So the reason why you might do this is a lot of people like to use their keyboard as well as the mouse to change statuses, and it's just that little bit quicker. So there's several ways to get to the search bar here. So what you can either do is press Control E, which will get you up there, or Control /, which will give you the list of commands to do. So as you can see, my status is Do Not Disturb at the moment. If I wanted to change my status to Away, all I need to do is press Control / to get to the command bar, type in Away, and hit Enter. And as you can see, your status has been set to Away, and it's now changed to Away. And that's how you change your status within Teams via the command bar. Thanks for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by The Final Step.
My apologies, I think I accidentally interrupted Luke there. I was clicking in the chat window and typing something, and I actually accidentally took the focus off the presentation. So I have there on the slide, there is the identification of what those keyboard shortcuts are. So hopefully you can see that. That's Control + E for Echo and Control + the /, which I just double check. Yes, is down at the bottom right of the keyboard. Now, our last bite-sized briefing was actually on the collaboration between Zoom and Teams and how it's a pretty good strategic choice going forward, because the two will work together and they have different strengths. And when we did that briefing last month, we produced a set of keyboard shortcuts for various aspects of Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So when I send the recording tomorrow, I will also send that shortcut, because I think people might find that useful. I think it's 1 or 2 pages of shortcuts.
Hello, welcome to another.
Right. So okay, one of the other things that people have requested from Microsoft, and I think I mentioned earlier that sometimes they're having problems bringing features over that previously worked really well in their other versions of software. One of the things that they're having difficulty with, but people would really like them to fix, is certain people need to see a list of all their team members, and they want to see live what their statuses are, and they want to have that window permanently open. So that's like a permanent window into the world of who's my team, where are they, and what are they doing, to summarize it. Now, there is a way currently to do that in Teams, but it is a little bit clunky and it takes quite a few clicks. But we'll show you how you can do it presently, and just bear in mind that Microsoft are working on developing something that is a little bit smoother.
Hello and welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today, we'll be showing you how to check the status of the team members within Teams. First, what you want to do is open up Teams and go to the channel that's part of that team. Once you're there, click on the channel info button on the top right hand corner here. Now you will see a quick glance of up to 10 people within that team. To see a full list of members of that team, click on the See Full List link here and expand all the tabs here. Now you should be able to see every team member within that team with the status next to them. Thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by The Final Step.
I guess one of the challenges of setting availabilities is the discipline to actually do it and follow it through. I mentioned earlier that you know, I have a particular problem when I sit back down at my desk and think, all right, let's just get on with stuff, that I forget to change my availability and status. So it's advantageous if the system can actually do that for you in an intelligent way and actually recognize when you're doing particular things and change the status for you. That also means that as you get used to working with statuses and helping out your colleagues, you know when you need to intervene and when you can leave it. And I know that a lot of these, it's not a great saving of time, but it can really add up. When you're doing these things repeatedly on a regular basis, any little thing that will save you time can make quite a big difference. So let's just have a look at how you can set up statuses automatically.
Welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today's tip, we'll look into automatic statuses in Teams and what they indicate. I'm not going to explain each and every status you see here, but I will cover some of the more common ones to give you a broader understanding of them. You've probably already noticed that statuses in Teams are color-coded, so let's go through that first. Green means that you're currently signed in and you're ready for a chat. Red means that you're busy and ideally do not want to be disturbed. Yellow means that you're currently away, and grey means that you're currently logged off. Now, it's important to note that with the grey or flying status, that it can only be done automatically. This cannot be set manually by the user. Let's go through other examples of automatic statuses. So, for example, the way Teams integrates with the calendar. If you have a schedule in the calendar saying that you're out of office, but you still signed into Teams, it'll be seen as available out of office. Similar to this, if you're currently on a call in Teams, where you have a scheduling calendar saying that you're out of office, you'll be seen as on a call out of office. Another good example of this will be the presenting status. This means that you're currently on a call on Teams, but you're also sharing your screen and you do not want to be disturbed. It also means that you're blocking any notifications coming your way. I hope this helps you to better understand statuses in Teams, and thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video at The Final Step.
Okay, so the automatic setting of statuses can be very handy. There are a number of other ways in which statuses can be set automatically. And so it's good to have some idea of it, particularly if you're a PA and the question will probably come your way, you know, why is this changing? I wasn't expecting it to change. It's good to know that there are a few other areas in which things can change. So the first, probably most common one is Windows 10, which, as you know, is the operating system. So it runs the desktop that you're actually working on. So it runs the whole system. That has a feature called Focus Assist. It used to be called a few years ago Quiet Hours, but it's now called Focus Assist. And what that does is it can control notifications pretty much across the device. So it can control notifications across a number of apps and across a number of contacts. So that's a sort of blanket high level setting. And you may find that something is going on in there, which is changing availability information and notifications popping up. The other thing is particular to Office 365. So Office 365 is the bundled suite of Office applications, Word, Excel, etc., all of those things. And also, depending on which version you buy, it also bundles in other services. So you may get storage area and you may get an email server. Now that has a feature called My Analytics. And what My Analytics does is it will send to users a whole raft of information about how they work. So who they're collaborating with, what hours they work, all of those kinds of things. But the piece of information that's relevant to these tips today is that it offers what is called focus time. So what it will do is if you turn it on, it will actually set it for you. if you don't turn it on, it will simply suggest times. But on a daily basis, it will look in your calendar, in your Outlook calendar, for between 1 and 2 hours when you can do deep, concentrated work. Now, if you're not familiar with statuses and availability, and you don't realize the impact that this can have on your colleagues and them locating and finding and working with you, it's very easy to get that email into your inbox and think, that's great. I'll set myself some focus time. Doesn't really impact anybody else. I'll set it, and if it goes, it's fine, and I won't worry about it. But what focus time does is that when that appointment comes up in the schedule for the day, it changes your Teams appointment, and in Teams it will say focusing. And going back to I think it was Sean's earlier tip on the traffic light system, that turns into a red setting, and that means that you start not to get disturbed, and so the notifications aren't coming through to you. And so you have to sort of realize that My Analytics can also have an effect on your statuses. The final thing is that Cortana can also affect statuses. So Cortana is Microsoft's, it's their artificial intelligent virtual assistant. So you can think of it a bit like, if you haven't heard of it before, like Alexa, but for Microsoft. So Cortana, if it's turned on, and it's pretty much a new kid on the block. I think I've been receiving their email since something like mid-May. But what Cortana will do is it too will suggest in an email that you set focus time. Now, PAs may be interested in this because Cortana also acts as a virtual assistant. And it promises to do things such as you can tell it, please set a meeting with this person. Please send this file to the attendees of that meeting. Please send this email to these people. And so it begins to act as if it's a PA, but actually all you're having to do is speak into either your phone, your tablet, or your PC. And Cortana can be active even when the PC or the laptop is idle. Now we get two different reactions to this, I guess. Some PAs think, well, hang on a second, this is infringing on my area. That's my job, shouldn't really be doing that. And some people think, great, if it can handle some of the low level stuff that kind of, my day gets frittered away with, and I can concentrate on the higher level stuff, then that is great. And I think that this question of availability and collaboration and statuses, there's definitely a yin and yang here to the technology. The technology is becoming increasingly easy to access. It's making more demands on us to be always on and always available. And at the same time, the manufacturers are realizing that people are working in difficult circumstances, that their software may not be helping, it's hindering, and there is simply too much noise. And in actual fact, they have to find ways to filter that noise intelligently so that people can actually focus on what is really important. And of course, that comes about from policy decisions and how companies approach things as much as it does from the technology. So they're interesting things to bear in mind. That sort of wraps up the first 7 tips. We've got 3 bonus tips for you. One of the things that we're hoping to do, if the feedback is good and this session has been useful, and we'll take back the feedback that you've given us and we'll seek to improve it in lots of little ways. But if it's been useful, we can run a similar session where we collect together a bunch of tips on a given theme and run those for you so that you get an overall idea about how to do things on the ground and also how they fit into the bigger picture. And the 2 areas that we think might be of interest, because we get a lot of queries about them, are how do you collaborate in Microsoft Teams with meetings? And also, how do you collaborate in Microsoft Teams with files? So one of the things that's common to people that people often ask for is, and they understand, is in Outlook, you can act as a delegate for somebody and set meetings. You can't yet do that in Teams, although you can approximate it by starting from Outlook and setting a Teams meeting. So let me show you this slide here. Again, I will send this with the recording tomorrow. but this is a snapshot of a website where you can vote for particular features that you feel are missing from or that you want to see in Teams. And as you can see here, this is a pretty old screenshot, and I don't think that it has changed for a while. But Microsoft are genuinely trying to prioritize the things that people find the most important. And you can see that this is in the plan stage, that whatever it is, something like 3,500 people have voted for it. And the more people who vote for it, the more likely they are to put it up the development priority list. The other thing that is very useful is when you vote under your email, they will actually tell you when the feature is released, and you'll begin to learn. And that's just we can then produce tips on things as new features come out and are released. But I will send that that link in the email about the meeting tomorrow. Let's have a quick look at this, how to search a meeting transcript. Let me tell you, if we did do a session on meetings, what kind of things would it cover? Well, it would be, how do you set up a meeting in Teams? How do you pre-publish an agenda? If you add somebody to the meeting after you've published the agenda, do they automatically get to see the agenda? How can you record a meeting? How can you have a meeting that has a transcript in it? How do you, if somebody can't attend a meeting, how do you share with them the recording of the meeting so that they can catch up? How do you do follow-up within Teams and create a to-do list and an action list for certain people to follow up and then be able to track that at a later date? So there's a whole host of things that relate to meetings. One of those that people like the sound of is the fact that meetings can be recorded. When they're recorded, Teams will set a transcript. So it'll do its best to do a verbatim of what was said in the meeting, and it will timestamp that. So that at a later date, you can say, for example, if an FD couldn't attend and there was relevant to a board meeting or a management meeting, there was a section that was about the finance, then you could say to them, listen, you need to listen from 8 minutes 30 in for 10 minutes, and you'll get the gist of what it is that the meeting was about. So let me just play you this tip on how to search meeting transcripts.
Hello and welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today we'll be showing you how to search for a meeting recording transcript. First, what you want to do is open up Teams, go to the chat that the recording is in, and find the recording. Next, click on More Options, and open in Microsoft Stream. Once that's opened and loaded up, you'll get the video to the left and the transcript to the right. From here, you want to search what you want. Click on here, and click Enter. Select the bit that you want, and you jump to that bit in the video. Thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by the Final Step.
Okay, so the other area that we might look at is how to work with files in Teams. And the kind of questions that come up here is, how do you have discussion and collaboration around files? How do you get to work in a file simultaneously with other people and know who's working on it and the edits that they're making? How do you understand automatic file saving and how the dangers of that, because if you start working on a file and you're using it as a template and you start altering it, you may not realize that automatic saving is happening in the background, and rather than creating a new document, you're actually overwriting the existing one. Understanding that files attached in chats are kept in one place and files attached in Teams within Teams are kept somewhere different. And do you link or attach, or how do you work with these things? Do you, if you save them in a particular place and there's privileged information, are you sure that only people with the correct permissions are able to see them? So there's a whole host of things which are quite important. One of the things is, how do I improve my ease of use of getting to files? And it's possible within Teams. A lot of team storage is held within SharePoint. And then people tend to have their work in progress files stored in OneDrive. This is assuming, of course, that you're entirely cloud-based. It can get a little bit more complicated if you're still on-premise or you're in a hybrid environment, so you're partially on-premise and you're partially in the cloud. But how do you easily synchronize between the two and have easier access to the files that are most important to you and that you're working on most of the time at that given moment? So let's have a look at how you sync files between Teams and OneDrive.
Hello, welcome to another bite-sized bulletin video. Today I will show how to sync files between Teams and OneDrive. So within Teams, you have a Files tab for your channel. You need to make sure before you sync, you're signed into your OneDrive, and then when you're ready, hit the sync button. You'll get a notification once it's synced. So then you open up your local file, and under your company header, you will see the name of the sync file location here. And as you can see, we have a test file within here. If we create a new Word document, call it test2, as you can see, the little icon here means it's syncing. This does sometimes take a little while. Once it's got the green tick, you're good to go. And then if we open up the Teams channel again and give it a refresh, you can see that test2 has now appeared. So that's how you sync your files between Teams and OneDrive. Thank you for watching another bite-sized bulletin video by The Final Step.
As you can see there from Luke, syncing one file is pretty quick, but syncing a number of files may take some time. So you just have to be aware of the volume that you're doing. So what I would like to do now is just to ask you, actually, are those of interest? And would you prefer one or the other, or would both be of interest? Because obviously, as we organize these bite-sized briefings, it's good to know what is going to be most useful. So excuse me whilst I literally put my head down and dig out this very quick poll and ask you. So you should now see appearing in your Zoom window an option. So which topic would you prefer to have a session on? And I'm pretty sure if I've set it up correctly, this is multiple choice. So you can select either, neither, or both. So just let us know which ones are of interest. Thank you very much. I'll give you a little bit of time and I'll have a sip of water. Okay, I'm assuming that everybody who wants to, oh no, sorry. I was assuming that everybody wants to vote has voted, but I can see there's a few more just clocking up. Okay, I'll assume now that everybody has voted. Thank you very much for that. It is much appreciated. We're collecting some polls and results from other places as well, just to see which are the most popular. I have some final sort of comments to make, and then I have one more question to ask you. So we kicked off the webinar by saying, you know, PAs do an amazing job. They are the people who organize and control the things that other people just can't seem to manage, and they pull it all together and they make things smooth and easy for other people. However, they are not miracle workers, and there is a limit to what can be done. So it would be great if you can take away these tips and you just implement them and everybody does them and it all works smoothly and it has a big effect on productivity. But that is not always going to be the case. Even simple things like setting status and having the discipline to set statuses on a regular basis so that you do in fact have a reliable source of information, even doing things like that can prove deceptively difficult. And it can depend on a couple of things. It can depend on how is your IT set up? Just, is it set up in the right way? The second thing is it can depend on is how compliant are staff? Are they following the rules? Now, a lot of that depends on, has the technology been explained to them? Do they know the benefits of the technology? And do they know the gains to be had from following a set of rules or guidelines around it? And then other people that they can turn to champion it and encourage them and get them heading in the right direction so that the technology truly does help you fulfill your potential. Now that is a slightly harder conversation to have. So if you are feeling, if you have questions around that and you think, you know, how is it that we could do that, we can get on a, say, a 15-minute call and give you some pointers around that. So if you would like to have that as an option, let me run the alternative poll. And this, instead of the last one, excuse my head being down, the last one, as I said, was multiple choice. This one is a sort of binary decision. And it's just a question of actually, if you would like some ideas about how you respond to that change management, really, and the adoption of technology and the implementation of it, then we'd be happy to help you with that. So I'm going to leave that poll up. But I would just like to say thank you very much for taking the time to join us. I hope it has been of use. Apologies for those who have had some audio problems. We will send out the recording to try and alleviate those tomorrow, and we can answer any questions subsequently about that. We hope that you can take the tips and use them to help you fulfill your potential. And we hope that we can see you on our next bite-sized briefing next month, and that it will be a topic that is of use to you. So thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. And I'll end the meeting now. Thanks.